It almost sounds like we're beginning to build a millennial Mecca here, where you can get to things easy but still have access to the rest of the world almost instantly.
Welcome to episode 367 of the Community Broadband Bits podcast from the Institute for Local Self-Reliance. I'm Lisa Gonzalez. We've been following Clarksville, Arkansas for a few years now. They started by developing a fiber network to use SCADA to improve utilities efficiencies. Now they're on their way to a citywide fiber-to-the-home network. This week, Christopher talks with John Lester from Clarksville Connected Utilities and Brian Isley, a local business owner who leads the Clarksville Chamber of Commerce. They discuss the road Clarksville has traveled toward their decision to deploy fiber to the home and some of the data points that encourage them to press forward. John talks about some of the unique choices Clarksville has made when designing their network to ensure its public purpose. Brian offers the perspective shared by Clarksville's business and residential sector. We also get to hear some of the specific examples of how the network has boosted economic development and some of the other ways Clarksville Connected Utilities is embracing the future. There was a little bit of a glitch in recording John's audio, so bear with us. The quality isn't as good as it usually is. Now here's Chris with John Lester from Clarksville Connected Utilities and Brian Isley, an independent business owner and leader of the local Chamber of Commerce.
Welcome to another episode of the Community Broadband Bits podcast. I'm Chris Mitchell with the Institute for Local Self-Reliance in Minneapolis. And today I'm speaking with John Lester, the General Manager of Clarksville Connected Utilities. Welcome back to the show, John.
Thanks for having me back.
And we're also hearing from Brian Isley, who is the President and CEO of the Clarksville Chamber of Commerce, which is the economic development organization there in Clarksville, Arkansas. Welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on.
And so, John, I think we had you on before when you were with Chanute back in another lifetime when we were doing this podcast back in the day. You've since gone on to do great things in Clarksville, Arkansas. Tell us a little bit about Clarksville.
Yes, you're correct. I did do a podcast when I was in Chanute, Kansas, when I was a city manager. I've been in Clarksville since July of 2013. Clarksville is a community very similar in size to Chanute. The population just under 10,000. So therefore, it's a rural community. It's in the northwest corner of Arkansas. Some of the perceptions related to the geography in Arkansas might be flat delta area. However, we're on the southern end of the Ozark Mountains. So it is a very beautiful, very outdoorsy, very scenic area that we live in. Very rural in nature. Our utility has about 4,500 customers, a sizable industrial load, and I think that it's been consistently growing as far as population over the last 20, 30 years as opposed to some other rural communities.
So, John, what have you been doing as the general manager of the Connected Utilities there in Clarksville?
Oh, life has been busy. About 4 or 5 years ago, we started the process of standing up a network, and I believe it was primarily for SCADA purposes. And at that time, we looked at oversizing the core, which is a 17-mile, 288-strand core, to be able to provide additional services on that. So we provisioned the SCADA network almost immediately after the fiber network was built, and then we layered in our business network, and then we had a very public process related to what other uses we might have long-term related to the network with all the extra capacity that we had. And we had some ad hoc folks that were in the IT arena within Clarksville participate, and they set out different layers of where they felt the preferences were. They wanted us to really focus on being able to serve the local anchor institutions, being the local library, the hospital. We have a liberal arts college, University of the Ozarks in town, the school district, the city, and the county. So that was the top priority on services. And then after that, it was help business and economic development by making some type of service available to that customer market. And then last, but certainly not least, was the potential of residential. After we determined what those steps were and what those priorities were, we engaged in a telecom engineering company, and they put together a fiber-to-the-home master plan for us from a design perspective. They also provided what the most recent construction-related costs might be to build that network. We took those dollars and we passed that to a completely independent third-party financial consultant. I think it's a financial consultant that many in this forum know pretty well, Doug Dawson with CDG Consulting or CCG Consulting. So he did the business case, and the business case was promising enough that we decided to take those next steps. So we did 2 statistically valid telephone surveys. The desire for the community across all market segments was high enough that actually was very, very encouraging. It was amazing. Some of the results of the survey, here's one example. If you had the choice of getting service that was at the same speed and same price, but you could buy from a local provider, what would be your likelihood to switch? 60% of those surveyed said they would switch just to be able to do business with a local provider. That was the strong enough emphasis to take those next steps to move forward with building a fiber to the home business network. We've issued revenue bonds, which is the first step for any municipality in Arkansas to take that action. And we are now in the process of finalizing a construction manager and all the electronics, and beginning within the next 3 or 4 weeks, we intend to be building a fiber to the home network in Clarksville, Arkansas. So we've had a few things going on.
Yes, it sounds like you've been very busy. Brian, I'd like to bring you in to talk about the perspective from the Chamber of Commerce, where you also work on economic development. What's been important to you as these different plans were being laid out before they even started?
Well, just a little quick background about me. I came on in August, and my wife and I actually have a small business here in Johnson County, so we're not in Clarksville per se. And I've always been involved with the chamber, so I always had an idea of kind of what was going on. But honestly, when I was considering coming and working at the chamber, one of the first things I did was meet with John Lester, just because, let's be honest, whatever John says goes. So I wanted to make a good first impression with him. But honestly, that was kind of the selling point. I went and did the what we've termed the Clarksville 101. I did the utility tour with him, and I was blown away with the SCADA network that he built, and how he's capitalized on that investment and turned around, and now he's hooking up. John says 18-24. I said 12 to 18 months out from having all the homes and businesses in Clarksville hooked up to ultra high speed broadband internet. So that right there was the hook. I was sold after that. I really see, with that kind of investment in Clarksville, and those kind of positive changes, we're on the up and up, and I just wanted to be a part of that. So that being said, I mean, we're having more and more conversations about businesses wanting to do business in Clarksville. So it's great.
It looks like you have about 10,000 people there, and it seems like it's a growing population. So why was the fiber optics so important to local businesses?
When the co-ops were building the electric utility in rural United States, I mean, that's the equivalent nowadays. It's the railroad of the 19th century. I mean, this is the utility of the future. It's what people are going to need to be able to do work going forward. Companies are going to need it. Businesses are going to need it. Education is going to need it. I mean, but that being said, I mean, Arkansas in general is a great place to do business. So, I think things are just on the up and up as a whole with the local initiatives, investment in the renewable energy, and the high-speed internet, as long as like the corporate tax reform that the Arkansas legislature just passed, some of the pro-business initiatives that Arkansas is doing, just a general low cost of doing business. The River Valley is really primed for some growth, and Clarksville's in an excellent position for that.
John, did you want to add on to that at all?
Yes, I think Brian hit something that's really key in that this network isn't just about faster internet or being, have more streaming video opportunities. He's really talking about education and training and public safety and healthcare, and we did something unique in this core that I was mentioning before, in that we specifically set out buffer tubes of 12 fibers in each tube for public purposes. And one such example, and it's actually our first paying customer, is in the purple tube. The school district now has a dedicated pair around the entire 17-mile ring topology, where they're transporting between their buildings, and I believe there are 11 of them, and that doesn't include our NOC, at 10 gigs around that ring. And then we provide their backup outside world internet connection from the state-provided solution. And when we built this network, one of the things is also going to make it unique, and the thing that we're going to provide a little value added for the anchor institutions is the building where our network operations center, our NOC, is located has a small vault in it, because it used to be a machine shop, and they used to protect their valuable papers. Well, Clarksville, Arkansas, and Clarksville Connected has a mini cloud opportunity. So we're giving the anchor institutions the opportunity to be on net with dedicated fiber and then use that vault for disaster recovery or backup electronics. That is a very unique position for Clarksville and us to be in to offer those anchor institutions.
Brian, I wanted to ask you about a specific example that my colleague Lisa wrote about in November of 2017, which was a local company, Monroe Shoes, that was able to expand because of the network. Do you want to tell me about what happened there?
Well, that was a little bit before my time, but my understanding was Monroe was looking to consolidate some of their, production. They were hem-hawing on whether they would do it at Clarksville at their facility or at somewhere else. And so with the Clarksville Connected Utilities, they set out and did an energy audit. And, they identified some of the opportunities to, cut down on overhead costs. And, of course, with the high-speed internet, that was just a bonus. So that really made up their mind because, and I talked to Molly Monroe regularly. That's a huge plus is John Lester and Clarksville Connected, and how she can pick up the phone and have the access to the local utility company and get the quick response if she's needing something done. And not just that, but Molly and her dad, Don, and Don Monroe, he's a Hall of Fame business guy for Arkansas. They are continually impressed with the workforce here in Clarksville. I mean, that was the other huge factor in why they moved all their production to Clarksville.
The other little element, some of the equipment that they were locating back into Clarksville needed that connectivity. We all talk about the Internet of Things. This is a typical example of that piece of equipment needed to be able to receive data over the Internet down to the piece of equipment to be able to produce efficiently. So therefore, that's why we made the step of being able to provide them with some bandwidth for free in return for their moving the equipment and the jobs to Clarksville.
One of the things that just hearing you discussing that makes me want to bring back up was something that you said earlier, John, about local surveys saying that people wanted to switch because they wanted a local provider as opposed to just, for instance, lower cost. That seems not something we see everywhere.
The survey company that we used, SDS out of Utah, have done quite a few surveys for public power entities that have been interested in providing broadband, and they said that some of the data that they saw unique to Clarksville surprised them compared to other municipalities. One additional example was they often felt that the satisfaction level with some of those public power systems was very strong on the electric side, but they couldn't perceive or didn't have a strong desire for that entity to also provide broadband. We did not see that in our survey. We saw a very strong desire for us to provide those local services, which they were very impressed by and very pleasing for us, obviously.
Well, and I would presume that then led into your decision not to do a partnership, which I believe you at least considered, and to offer the internet access directly through the utility.
That is correct. We looked at a number of different models, wholesale model where we would provide the transport with another retailer, and that was really what probably tipped it over the edge. Other than the financials became a little bit more complicated when you tried to build that model. The other interesting thing that the survey really brought forth is obviously you've heard this in this forum. More and more customers are cutting the cord related to cable TV. We found that even though there were a substantial number of customers that still subscribe to a traditional linear TV offering, many of them had already cut the cord off of the cable company and was using a dish-type network anyway. And that was another reason why we made the ultimate decision when it came to selling services to not provide a traditional cable TV offering. We are going to help educate and encourage people on how to stream their video services, and we think that that's where a substantial savings would be in store for our local area.
I'm curious about the reaction of local businesses because, Brian, it seems to me that many local businesses can probably already have service for themselves. Does going to providing residential service, is that something that local businesses are excited about or the Chamber thinks will add something to the business climate?
Well, absolutely. Again, going back to the narrative for Arkansas, if you look at the River Valley and what John was talking earlier, nestled between the Ouachita and the Ozark Mountains, right along the Arkansas River, we've got a cost of living that's extremely cheap compared to a lot of densely populated areas in the United States. And I'm a prime example. I'm from the East Coast. I met my wife, who's from Johnson County up in Washington, D.C., and I came out here to Arkansas to meet her parents and to see what I was getting into. And let me just say they have a shooting range off their back porch. I was really blown away by the quality of life here. And some of my retirement goals that I had at a young age in my young 20s, I've already attained. I've got cattle. I live on, 40 acres. I have a house. I have a second home. If I can do it, anybody can do it. And so with that being said, if we were to market that to some of these other, where your rent, you can't even afford to buy property because your rent is so high and you can't afford the taxes and the mortgage and the interest associated with those. If we market those San Franciscos or those New Yorks or those, metropolitan areas, then because the remote workforce is becoming such a thing now, people can come here and they can live and they can access the information highway because they're going to have a fiber optic portal on the side of their homes, and they can get as much. It's an all-you-can-eat, as fast as you can eat it, for as long as you can eat it, internet service. There's something to be said for that. I think that'll be the next kind of revolution, is people getting away from the hour commutes on a metro bus, getting on a subway, and then having to fight traffic to get home for dinner or to get to work early in the morning. People eat up so much more of their day commuting in some of these bigger areas that, I like to make a joke. People say, "Hey, Brian, I need you to be here right now." And I say, "I'll be there in 5 minutes," because that's all it takes for me to get somewhere in Clarksville, Arkansas. So, with that said, I think there's an extreme value to the quality of life here that you just can't find anywhere. And so, yeah, the connectivity that John has, brought to Clarksville, I think will pay huge dividends later on. So, that's kind of the residential side. And now on the business side, if I can get some of these mom and pops to switch over their POS systems to, they've got these really high-speed internet modems in their business now, and it's like, guys, get a Square, get a Clover or something, and let's speed up your register a little bit. But those are some of the educational pieces that John and I will be working on going forward. But yeah, no, we're really excited. It's going to be good for business. It's going to be good to attract a new workforce and to bring some of those kind of software jobs, hopefully bring them here.
And John, I'm curious if you can build on that a little bit, but also I'm curious. My impression is that I don't know where your utilities mandate is, but from some of the reading, it sounded like you'd be going outside of the city limits a little bit too.
I do want to tag on what Brian mentioned first, because it almost sounds like we're beginning to build a millennial Mecca here, where you can come and enjoy life and get the things easy, but still have access to the rest of the world almost instantly.
Got to get that avocado toast in Main Street diners.
Exactly. And if you have to fly to corporate, we're an hour and a half from Little Rock or an hour from Fort Smith. OKC's not too far. But yeah, I think that we're getting in a position to do a lot of those things. And another thing that we've been doing recently, it's not directly related to the fiber network, is we've also been more proactive than many other municipal utilities related to renewable energy. We have built a 5 megawatt access tracker solar power plant, and that adds to the unique interest of Clarksville. We're getting ready to do another one. We're going to be able to say part of today's world is differentiating your rural community compared to the rest of the world. So we're going to be able to say not only can we deliver this world-class network that can help business or homeowners or help millennials work from home, but we're going to be the first city in Arkansas who all of our internal energy needs are going to be met with solar power or renewable energy. So we're trying to do things to differentiate, to try to market our community, because it's really a wonderful place.
Well, and tell me more about where you're going to be moving just outside of your community to offer service as well.
What we're going to do is we are looking at the possibility of providing a wireless service to areas outside of the radius of Clarksville. So in the bond issue, we have a certain amount of dollars set aside trying to target towards getting at least some service to people in those rural communities, northeast, south, and west of us that have practically nothing except for satellite internet, and we know just how wonderful satellite internet is in today's streaming world of Netflix. So, yes, we do have a plan for that. There might be a possibility that some of the neighborhoods just outside of the city limits that we can get to, we'll build fiber direct to those. But, the top priority now is to build in the city limits, but there is a longer-term plan in mind.
Are there any other things that you should tell me about?
We've got a low cost of living and a low cost of doing business.
I can vouch for that. I have a relative who moved to Northwest Arkansas. He actually picked Barrowville, and so he's quite enjoyed it. I visited him a number of times. It's wonderful. I like my winters a little bit more. I like my summers a little less sticky, but there's a ton you have going for yourselves up there.
It's really very beautiful and scenic where we are.
Thank you both for taking the time to talk with us today.
Thank you.
Thanks for letting us share the good things going on in Clarksville, Johnson County.
Absolutely.
That was Christopher speaking with John Lester, General Manager of Clarksville Connected Utilities in Clarksville, Arkansas, and Brian Isley, President and CEO of Clarksville Chamber of Commerce. To learn more about Clarksville's fiber network, be sure to check out muninetworks.org for our stories on the project. We have transcripts for this and other podcasts available from muninetworks.org/broadbandbits. Email us at podcast@muninetworks.org with your ideas for the show. Follow Chris on Twitter. His handle is @CommunityNets. Follow muninetworks.org stories on Twitter. The handle is @muninetworks. Subscribe to this podcast and the other podcasts from ILSR, Building Local Power, and the Local Energy Rules podcast. You can access them wherever you get your podcasts. You can catch the latest important research from all of our initiatives if you subscribe to our monthly newsletter at ilsr.org. While you're there, please take a moment to donate. Your support in any amount helps keep us going. Thank you to Arnie Huseby for the song Warm Duck Shuffle, licensed through Creative Commons. And thank you for listening to episode 367 of the Community Broadband Bits podcast.